It is the latest example of the deadly consequences of an unchecked open border. A 12-year-old girl has been found strangled in Texas. 2 illegal immigrants are now charged with her murder. And Department of Homeland Security sources have confirmed to Fox News both those suspects crossed our border illegally from Mexico. And they were first caught and then released, so catch and release by Border Patrol earlier this year. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-hosts Emily Compagno and Kayleigh McEnany. Also joining us today, Fox News contributor and host of Tomi Lahren is Fearless, because she is, on Outkick, Tomi Lahren. And Fox News contributor, attorney, and former NYPD inspector, Paul Morrow, is with us. Well, for more on the murder in Texas, I want to start with Mike Tobin, who's in Chicago today. Mike.
Well, Harris, an ICE official says the 2 Venezuelan men came to the U.S. illegally. They were caught but allowed to stay. And now a 12-year-old Texas girl is dead. Sunday night, 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungaray snuck out of her room. It's not clear how she made contact with the suspects, but they were captured by surveillance cameras right up to the last moments of Jocelyn's life. Police were able to piece together surveillance video and track them to a bridge where police say the 12-year-old was murdered, dumped in a bayou, her body later found in a creek. The medical examiner says the cause of death is strangulation. The last time Jocelyn's mother saw her was when she sent her little girl to bed.
I would have gave her the biggest hug, and I just probably wouldn't have let go.
Now, this ICE source tells Fox News 26-year-old Jose Pena Ramos crossed into El Paso on an unknown date. He was picked up in May by Border Patrol and released with a notice to appear in court at a later date. 21-year-old Johan Jose Rangel Martinez also crossed into El Paso illegally and was released with a notice to appear. The 2 were picked up by police in an apartment complex not far from the alleged murder scene.
Now we want the justice system to do its job. If there was ever a circumstance where you do not give someone bail, this is it.
Now, the acting Houston police chief says evidence is being examined to determine if Jocelyn was sexually assaulted and said only that the crime scene is horrible. Harris, back to you.
I can only imagine. Mike Tobin, thank you very much. Paul Morrow, there seems to be something going on with our White House right now where they don't react to these stories in real time.
That's right.
And it seems like we're waiting longer and longer for these periods. What is the calculation politically, in your estimation, in reacting to the death of yet another child, American child? Suspects are illegal immigrants and now caught up in a catch-and-release situation that we know should not exist.
Does it not seem like we've hit a point where somebody in Washington has made the decision that there is an acceptable level of collateral damage in order to get a permanent Democratic voting bloc into this country? I'm going to give you a quote direct from Chuck Schumer. We have a population that is not reproducing on its own with the same level that it used to. We need to welcome immigrants and get a path to citizenship for 11 million. What does that tell you? If those 11 million were calculated to vote Republican, the wall would be 60 feet high. So at this point, I would, just to advance the story a little bit, the main thing you got to do is you got to slam dunk these prosecutions, absolutely. But you got to start to gather intel as well, and here's why. Because we got to know what we're up against, because a lot of this stuff is organized. And at some point, if and when Donald Trump does end up as president, he's going to have a lot of work to do. He's got to know what he's getting into. And these Venezuelan prison gangs, we don't know that much about them. They're here. And very clearly, we're not seeing the big DOJ cases. Where are the big programmatic cases? There's been one
That's a great question.
Where are they? I mean, NYPD did a big one. They're the only ones that I've seen do a big sort of RICO-level case against these Venezuelan gangs. I'm going to tell you where those cases are. They're in the back of a drawer in Mayorkas' desk. That's where they are. And they should be in the grand jury.
You know, Emily, can we talk about the law for a little bit with what Paul has just brought up? I mean, I thought the threat was so real that even Christopher Wray has been saying something will happen if we don't start to change things at this point. Well, it's happening now. Where is the DOJ on this?
And where I'm curious is the mainstream media. Where's the liberal left? They called it fear-mongering when people had and networks had a chyron stating the truth, which is, for example, illegal immigrant kills mother of 5, or illegal immigrant rapes 13-year-old in Central Park. And now, yet another victim. The saddest part to me is that apparently if it's an American life, it matters less to these people. And so then I posit, well, is it enough then? Should we bring up the highest rapes in history being recorded in every Mexican town along our southern border? The 85,000 unaccompanied minor children, would that then ring a bell? Would that deserve a distinction between fear-mongering and truth, or something worthy of attention? How much is enough? How much is enough to get the attention of the commander-in-chief and this party who apparently only cares about votes? Final point. I note that here in this yet another tragic case, it was the community that responded to obtain, to get essentially to capture these recidivist, known to authorities, let go, known to Border Patrol multiple times, illegal immigrants, just like the ones in Queens. So right now, essentially, communities are cleaning up the work of the failed policies of our failing administration, but unfortunately, lives are being lost in the interim. And unlike Mayorkas, we say their name.
Yeah, let's say the name of 12-year-old Jocelyn today. I mean, we heard moments ago from her mom, Alexis, who said if she could have just hugged her just a little bit longer. It's pretty unbelievable that we have a situation, Tommy, where these two suspects, illegal immigrants, came across our border in El Paso, Texas, and were let go into the country. We had no idea where they went. This child's body was found in Houston, so they hadn't left the state of Texas, but they're free to roam about the country.
And they're targeting women, and particularly young women. So to Emily's point, I ask, not only where is the liberal mainstream media, but where are the feminists? This is something that we've been asking for years now when it comes to women's issues, beyond just abortion, women's issues in terms of women's sports, and now in terms of young women being victimized by Venezuelan gangs or from illegal immigrants, migrants, newcomers, whatever you want to call them. They are targeting young, vulnerable women, and this is not going to stop. They're not going to stop targeting young women because they are the most vulnerable among us. So they're preying on young women, and yet we're not hearing anything from the feminist crowd that pretends and claims to care about young women. Because then you have to acknowledge the problem that your party has created. And that's the same reason that Mayorkas will not say Rachel Morin's name, because if you say the name, and the same reason why Joe Biden couldn't even get Laken Riley's name right, because if you say the name and you put a face to a name, to a crisis, then you actually have to address it. But what they're expecting us to do now is let millions in and hope for the best.
Well, the best is not happening in some of these cases. Look, I don't think everybody coming across the border, nobody believes that everybody is all one thing. Most of those people may want to come here for better jobs, so on and so forth. And by the way, coming for a better job does not qualify you for asylum. No. Kayleigh.
Yeah, you know, the question I have this morning is how many more names will we come to know? Because it was just 2 days ago, we were listing off the names Laken Riley and Rachel Morin. And then, you know, I go to bed last night and you wake up and you learn about the name of Jocelyn Nungaray, you know, this 12-year-old who's killed. Several of these happened just since the weekend when you include the 13-year-old. And when you look at them, what is the nexus between all of them? A failure of government. A Salvadoran migrant allegedly killing Rachel Morin. He was a gotaway. An Ecuadorian migrant, illegal immigrant who came into the country allegedly assaulting that 13-year-old. He was caught and released. And then when you move forward to this 12-year-old who was killed, it was two Venezuelan illegal immigrants who came through, again, allegedly, killed this little girl, and they were caught and released. So it's catch and release, but in some cases, it's catch and release and assault. In other cases, it's catch and release and kill. And how are they getting away with it? How are they getting away with it? I'm sorry, I have to call it the aider and abettor, which is the press. When the Associated Press headline is 2 men arrested in strangulation of 13-year-old, they weren't 2 men. They were 2 illegal immigrants. You ask, why does Biden not have to address this or say their names? Because the mainstream media lets them get away with it. Shame on you, Associated Press, because your headline, as Bill Malugin points out, will be used in several stories across the country, and you neglect a very key point.
But why don't those reporters and anchors say the names too? I mean, Kayleigh, I would even further what you're saying. Do they even care?
Yes.
Do they even
No,
know?
they don't.
Well, we saw Congressman Jayapal laugh. Remember, laugh at the Chyron yesterday. So not only are they not saying the names, but apparently it is cause for mirth and joy and laughter at the fingertips of not only those mainstream media journalists, but also our lawmakers.
You mentioned the gotaway in Rachel Morin's case. And what we learned today was that he had tried to enter the country 3 times. And then, and Rodney Scott, former Border Patrol chief, who I think was under the Trump administration when you were there, what he was talking about was the fact that, well, he had to pay extra money to the cartel. He'd had to gain extra information about where he could go so that he could get in. It was plotting against the country. Now, this is a bigger thing than coming to the border and just simply saying, oh, look, there's an opening, let me sneak through. Now it's a conspiracy to get into this country. When is the Department of Justice going to get involved? I'd love to know the answer to that question.
I'd like to see Donald Trump now telling the foreign nations that are doing this, when I come in, you're going to answer for it.
100%.
I hope it's a debate question, by the way. I wonder if someone will
doubt
ask
it.
the president that.
Who's driving? Come on, ladies.
CNN's driving.
All right. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.